Well, welcome everybody to the first official professional development team training for our region. I'm Teresa Cefali. I am the regional advisor for professional development. And today, Rachel Sirota and I, who's on the team, will be presenting Elevate Your Networking Game, 3 Critical Skills to Master. Oh, hold on, there we go. I think we're going to be able to advance this. Hey. There we go. So just a little quick backstory about where we are at for this year, for 2024. So the beginning of last year, I stepped in and took over for Jim Sandler for the professional development team. And one of the first things that we did was we put together a little listening tour survey. Some of you may have spoken to either somebody on the training team or one of our area directors, because we had a lot of volunteers for this project. And we kind of spoke to just a small cross section of the membership, just to find out what you guys wanted, because it's not enough for us to guess, right? So we went around, and the 2 top topics that were requested were networking skills. People want to improve their networking skills, and also marketing. And I think that's where our theme for this year, networking, your critical marketing skill, came about. Because here's the deal, everybody. Networking is a marketing strategy. So it's really important to have a really good system and strategy in place. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So we have an actual series built out for the year. Our goal today is going to be to introduce the topic for the year. We're going to do a little bit of an assessment. You'll see what that is in a minute. So there's 3 parts. We'll do a little assessment. We're going to have a little tiny why you should care section. Then we're going to go into breakouts after each one of the 3 critical marketing skills. And we're going to talk about what we can share with each other, because there's a lot of collective expertise right here in this room. So it's not that we know all the things and we're going to tell you all the things, but everybody here has experience and skill and knowledge. We're going to do those in breakouts. We'll come back, we'll do a quick discussion, and then we'll start with the next skill that we'll need to learn. And we're going to repeat that 3 times, if that makes sense. All right. I love that, Bodil. She types dyslexically. I can't even say it, but I love it. That's okay. I read fluent Taiwanese, and we're all good to go. Rachel, do you have something you want to add?
Only that I'm just really excited about this. I love that this whole series came out of member feedback, so that we're not playing guessing games and we're not, kind of trying to throw stuff at the wall and see what might stick, that this is really based on what we have heard from members would be the most valuable, to be able to get the most out of all of our experience in Master Networks. The other thing that I'll add is, today, especially, Teresa and I aren't coming in as experts to say, hey, we do this perfectly, let us tell you how to do it. This is, I know as we put this together, I was like, that's an area I could definitely improve on. That's an area that I could be better. So we come to you really as peers to facilitate this conversation, not to kind of preach at you. So with that, Teresa, should we just jump on in?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first skill that we're going to talk about, it's probably not surprising to many of you, because it gets talked about at chapter meetings and in conversations, and it's the skill of listening. And I think if I asked for a show of hands, and who thought listening was an important skill, everybody would agree. I don't think we'd have any argument about that, but we don't always actively practice listening as well as we think we might. So like Teresa said, we're going to do a little bit of a self-assessment. Now, this is for you. So I encourage you to really be honest with yourself. If you want to score yourself, we're score ourselves on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being I never do this, and 5 being I always do this. If you want to give yourself a 5 on everything, because that makes you feel better, go for it. Nobody's going to check your scores. Nobody's going to call you out on it. But I think we'll all get the most out of this if we can really be honest with ourselves. So I'm going to just give you 3 short statements and ask you to think for just a second about how you would score yourself on that statement on a scale of 1 to 5. So Teresa, can we go to the first one? Okay, so when you're in a chapter meeting, by the end of sound bites, can you say you are totally confident that you know what everyone else in the room does? On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, nope, I have no idea what anybody else does. 5 being, yes, quiz me, I know what everybody does. I'll give yourself a second to think about it. You don't have to share. And if it's a 2, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It just means there's lots of room to improve and get better. Okay, let's move on to the second one. When I do a face-to-face, I always ask questions about the other person's interests and remember their answers the next time we talk. The second part of that is really the key, and remember their answers the next time we talk. So 1, nope. When I go into a face-to-face, I talk about myself the whole time. I don't listen to what they say at all. 5 being, I ask lots of questions and listen carefully so I remember their answers every single time. You can think about that. Think about how you would score yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. And the last one. By the end of every face-to-face, I'm confident that I understand the other person's current business needs. What do you think? On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you score yourself? Now, I'm not going to ask you to share your scores, but if you want to put in the chat overall how you feel about your scores, I'd love to see that. So are you feeling like, yeah, I'm rocking this, like listening, I am good at this, I feel great? Are you feeling like, maybe I have a little bit of work to do? I like Bodil's emoji reaction. Are you feeling like, sometimes better than others? 3.8, that's very precise. Room for improvement, feeling good, but I can improve, need some work. All right, good, awesome. I love this, not bad. Awesome. Okay, so let's go on to the next side. And we're going to talk just a little bit about why this is important. And for those of you who know me, know I'm a big reader, so I pulled 3 of my favorite quotes about listening to really kind of help illustrate why this is so important. So the first one, seek first to understand. This comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is actually habit number 5. And it's really about this habit of empathetic communication, right? That when we go into a conversation with the goal of understanding the other person before we try to make ourselves understood, that helps us to build trust. And that's really, you're going to hear that word trust kind of come back a lot throughout this conversation. The next quote is from Brené Brown, and it's simply, connection is why we are here. We are hardwired to connect with other people. And when someone feels seen and heard, they feel safe. And in that safety comes a relationship that can actually bring genuine value. And finally, Simon Sinek, listening is hearing what isn't said, right? He teaches us that rather than simply waiting for our turn to speak, which is how a lot of us go into a conversation, right? You speak and I have to be quiet until there's a pause, and then it's my turn, I get to speak, and now you have to wait, right? Instead of doing that, we can really effectively read all forms of communication when we're fully present and listening, so that we can provide specific and unique support. So listening is about not just hearing the words or listening for the pause in you know, their speaking pattern, but looking at facial expressions, listening to tone, watching body language, all of those forms of communication so that we can really understand each other. So with this framework, we're going to go into our first breakout. How long?
How many minutes? Oh, 5?
5, I think 5. And all you're going to do is just kind of mastermind together. If you were one of the people that felt really good about your scores, share some tips. If you were one of the people that felt like you needed improvement, ask for advice so that we can all kind of collaborate together in this conversation.
Excellent. Thanks, Rachel. All right, everybody. I'm going to send you out. There will be a 60-second countdown timer. So we'll bring you back when we're done. Have fun. Okay, so the next critical networking skill is having a system. Networking, as we know, it takes up a lot of time, right? We're meeting people face to face. We're showing up to our meetings, whether they're on Zoom or in person, whatever kind of networking event you're going to. And if you're out doing anything for business, you should be networking. Tina always says you should be networking at your family barbecue, right, Tina?
At your grandma's barbecue.
That's right. So having a system is going to be really important to help you for a myriad of reasons. But in the meantime, we're going to go back to doing that assessment again. So score between 1 and 5, 1 being never, 5 being always, and whatever it is in between. And honesty is for you. Because we can't improve unless we're looking at our stuff. There we go. Okay, I have clear and consistent goals that focus on my networking efforts. If you don't know that you need a goal for your networking, then you might be on the lower end, and that's okay, because the idea is to discover what we need to know now so that we can start improving in those areas. All right. Number 2, I have an effective and efficient networking system that ensures I connect and follow up with the right people. Give yourself a little rate. There should be a system. Who are you meeting with? How are you meeting with them? And then what are you doing to follow up with the people who are a right fit for you? And then finally, we're going to score ourselves again between 1 and 5. I regularly evaluate the effectiveness of my networking efforts and make adjustments accordingly. So if you have a goal and you're staying on track with your goal and you have a great system, every once in a while you should be going back and saying, is this still working for me? Are these the right strategies, the right tactics, the right schedule, and make those adjustments? Okay. So same as we did before, if you're willing to give an idea in the chat of where you fall in this regard.
We wrote them, we just never got it.
Whoops, there we go, little muting. We got a 3, 3, and nothing. I think I'm at 2. So these were harder. Oh, need help? Don't you worry. We got a lot of needs improvement here. And I'm not surprised. Most of us are just going out and meeting people, and we're not really thinking about the systems that we need in place to help us be more efficient and effective with our efforts, right? Because we're putting effort in, we should be getting something out of these efforts. Thanks so much for your candor, everybody. So let's just take a look at a few things that why it's so important to have a system for your networking. One, and this shouldn't be any surprise coming from me, the productivity coach, is better productivity, right? When you have a goal and a process, it helps you be more effective and be more efficient with your networking efforts. A good system is going to save you time, right? So you're not spending time with the wrong people. You're not dropping balls and things like that. You're also using the resources that you have wisely, and having a good system in place is going to help you capitalize on networking opportunities more proficiently. And that means more ROI for you. The other reason to have a great networking system is for adaptability and agility. And I am telling you right now, this is going to put you ahead of other people out there that are just handing out the business cards or not taking advantage. When you have a strong networking system, it enables you to adapt swiftly to change, right? So a pandemic arises. Can you adjust your strategy? You can seize emerging opportunities much better, and you can outpace your competitors, which is always better because when you have a system, that also means for follow-up, you'll be staying on track where other people are dropping balls, and it'll help you do so many other things as well. And then, of course, the last benefit of having a good system is stronger connections, right? We want to be able to maintain consistent and meaningful interactions with the contacts that matter to you, those referral partners, those anybody that you're building and partaking in other opportunities with, say like co-presenting or putting on writing a book together, or like Rob and Eliza doing building a secondary business together, right? So when you're able to foster stronger connections because you have a great system that helps you stay on track with that, it helps increase your know, like, and trust factor and that loyalty over time. All right. So again, we're going to head out into breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And what you're going to do is exactly what you did before, right? If you have a system in place and you feel really good about your systems, and from what I see in the comments, I'm not seeing a really big number of people here that have really strong systems in place. So maybe just brainstorm some ideas that you can do to create a system or follow up. That's one thing you can do. Or maybe work together to come up with a really great networking goal for yourself. All right, I'm going to send you out into rooms. I'm going to hit pause. So we'll take a few minutes. I know that systems and processes can be tough, but did anybody have really good ideas or something that you can share from their breakout room? Feel free to raise your digital hand. And I don't believe that there weren't anything. Hey, Bodil, go ahead.
Lynn Rowe came up with a really good, it's not quite an app, it's a CRM, but it's called Less Annoying CRM. And it was so simple the way that she's described it. I've also got a little app on my phone that's called Pretty Simple. It does the same kind of thing. So it's not sending out emails and nonsense like that. It's just as a reminder, and you keep all your notes together. That was really, really good. Thanks, Lynn.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Bodil. Nikki.
Yes, Teresa, I actually shared your tip from a previous PD where you said you can use Trello to input the face-to-faces that you had. So I said doing it every day, like taking the handwritten notes and typing it onto the board and just kind of using that as who do I need to follow up and by when is really useful.
That's a good one.
That's a great system. I'm glad to
Thank
hear.
you, Teresa. Yes.
That makes me happy, Nikki. One person implements something I said. All right, we're going to stop at Anthony. So we're going to go Evan, Tina, and then Anthony. Go ahead, Evan.
Sure. So Anna Nowak and myself, we were having a conversation about how networking is really an art form. And you have to sort of take every scenario and go with the flow and twist it to sometimes turn a lemonade into, lemons, from lemon, lemonade from lemons. It's just one of those things where you just have to, it evolves sometimes. It's not a rigid format.
Thank you, Tina.
Well, I have to say that there is the hub, which you can track your face-to-faces. It's a little like, in-house CRM. You can put notes.
you could find the person, and then at the end, it spits out a report. So when people come and they say, oh, I'm not getting any ROI, and I sit there and I go, well, how many face-to-faces are you do? Because we know there's a correlation between the amount of face-to-faces you do and your return on investment or return on energy. So, I mean, that's one of the things, at least use something to track them, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet. And then I just want to say that I did recently, I have a VA, and the VA is from a company that hires military spouses to do VA work. And I like the idea that I'm supporting in any way that I can our military people and their families. Thanks. She helped me
Awesome.
put the information in. Thanks.
Thanks, Tina. Anthony.
Yo, so I'll throw out maybe a challenge or maybe something y'all could give us some ideas on. We were in there with Lois and Vivian, and in certain professions, there's some that kind of are like magnetized to each other. Like I said, Vivian, oftentimes people in the financial field probably want to reach out to you. They're like, hey, you're an accountant, but like, how do you figure out like a good, not too much, not too little? How loose do you network with everyone that makes a request to you, which I would think most of us would in some way, or are there some of us who choose a more restrictive path where they only keep it industry specific? That's kind of one thing that we were talking about in our breakout room.
That's a really great question, and we'll definitely address that in future training. But I'll add for now, and then if anybody else has something that they want to add, please feel free to just raise your hand and we'll take like one or two really quick. I would say everything really depends on how much time you have. So, and then what you are doing and how you're using the time that is available to you. So if you have a very limited time to do face-to-faces and meet people, taking a face-to-face with just anyone likely isn't the best use of your time or your energy. Meeting with someone who could possibly be a great strategic partner would kind of like take precedent over that. So that's sort of how I deal with it. And then we all have seasons. Sometimes we have time for more face-to-faces where we're just getting out of there, meeting people. And if it's just meeting people, taking advantage of the mixers is a really good idea. You get to meet a lot more people and it's a lot more casual. And then you can decide who you want to move forward with. All right. And all right. With that, we are ready to move on to the last part, critical skill number 3. Rachel, take it away, my friend.
All right. So skill number 3 is nurturing. And what this really is all about is we just talked about having these systems. We just talked about, okay, you need to follow up. You need to, continue the relationship. This is really about what that actually looks like. What are the actions? You have that Trello board or you have that CRM with these steps that you're going to move somebody through. But what are those steps? What are the things that you do to nurture the relationship? So that's what this skill is all about. So we're going to do one last assessment. So we have 3 more statements for you. Now you know how it all works. So the first one, I have content like a bio or information about my services or whatever else might be applicable already prepared and ready to share with new referral partners. Do you have that all ready to go? So when you get off the face-to-face, you can send it easily. Or are you scrambling? Or when somebody asks you for it, you look like a deer in headlights. Where do you fall 1 to 5? All right, next one. I check in with my contacts and referral partners regularly to make sure that I'm clear about their current needs and the value they offer. Right? Because sometimes those things change. So we don't want to assume that the face-to-face that we did a year ago, where somebody articulated a particular need, we don't want to assume that that's still where they are and still what they're looking for. We want to make sure we're continuing to have those specific conversations, right? So we know what these people are looking for. And then the last one, I check in with my network and contacts regularly about non-business related topics. Oh, in the uniquely spelled version with a period in the middle of the word topics. So we all know that we're here in Master Networks to build the relationship with the human being, not just go after the transaction. So are you continuing to check in? If you did a face-to-face and somebody mentioned that their kid was sick, are you reaching out and saying, hey, is your kid feeling better? Somebody mentioned that they were going on vacation. Are you reaching out to say, hey, how was it? Are you continuing to show them that you care? So Trisha says, yikes, I don't like my answers for these. How are the rest of you guys feeling about it? I feel some people are saying they're doing great. I see some smiles. I see some people not wanting to make any eye contact at all, which maybe means they don't feel so great about it. All right, maybe in some areas better, other areas worse. Sandy's feeling better again. We're back to feeling good. All right. I love it. So needs improvement. Anna says 5, but I don't know if that's laughing or crying or what's going on. I don't know, people deal. I don't know where to interpret that one. So it sounds like, you know, some people are doing better in some of these areas, maybe not in some others. So let's just talk about this for a little bit. So we'll go to the next slide. And there's just kind of a few things that I want to point out, and I don't think this is anything new. First of all, you know, we talk about this all the time about staying top of mind, right? A relationship that's continually nurtured is going to increase the likelihood of a referral when the opportunity arises. It's probably not likely that if you did a face-to-face 6 months ago and haven't spoken to the person since, right? And then somebody comes up and mentions that they need somebody who does what you do, is it likely that they're going to remember, hey, 6 months ago, I talked to that person? Probably not, right? So staying top of mind is really, really important to getting the outcomes that we're looking for. Not to mention that ongoing connection builds trust. So when you're checking in with people regularly, they know that they matter, right? They feel seen and heard. And the more that you're building trust, and the more they know that's how you're going to treat any referrals that they pass along, right? If you're a kind and caring person in one place, they're going to assume that you are that in all places, right? And finally, transactions are short term. And I've actually had this happen to me, right? Where people kind of get this take the money and run mentality, where when they wanted me to be their client, or I was their client, when they saw me out and about, we were like best friends. They wanted to talk to me. They wanted to hang out. Now that I'm no longer a client anymore, that business is concluded, I barely get a wave. Probably not likely to refer that person to my contacts now, because it's clear that I was just a transaction to them, even though they acted for a little while like the relationship mattered. So we really want to make sure that whether the business happens or it doesn't happen, or it happened years ago, that the relationship remains intact. So we're going to go into one more breakout room. Yeah, Sandy, you were just somebody that I used to know. Exactly. So we're going to go into one more breakout room. If this was an area where you felt really good, share some tips. If it's an area where you didn't feel as good, ask some questions, and we'll come back for one more discussion after this. So see you back here in 5.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. So let's hear some thoughts. Any great takeaways or conversations happening in your breakout rooms? Anyone want to raise your hands and volunteer what you were chatting about? Rick.
So, long story short, I'm in a room with Catherine and Nikki, and it ends up, because Catherine is new, she's from Texas, she's visiting us, she's a member of an in-person chapter, and she says, I'm a precious metals dealer. And I was just having a conversation with Carol at 2:30 in the morning via text about precious metals. So we have a in-person member from Texas who's visiting a virtual meeting in New York and, you know, in our region. And we had a conversation about something that literally I was talking to Carol about in the middle of the night.
Love that. The universe knew you needed to be together. All right, let's go to Mike and then Mario.
You have to unmute, Mike.
Or Rick, she bugged your room. That's possible too.
I was in the room. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. I was with Barry and Anthony had shared that, everything we're doing today is just being an authentic, caring person and just basically being a people person. And we call it a system. It's great, but that's basically just showing that we're genuine and authentic and we like to care for people before we want their business and know about them. So that was a great point.
Yeah, Anthony has those great points. I know.
That
All right,
was-
Mario.
That was
What do you
Barry.
got?
That was all Barry, man. Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. Oh, also does not surprise me. Mario, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to mention in our group, one of the things that we talked about is having a capability statement that is ready to go. So we talked about having something to give to somebody, when you make that that connection. So when you have a capability statement, which I like to call it, and listing kind of your services, don't be afraid to add on extra things there to make you look even better. Some credibility, additional experience, perhaps awards, or any associations that you're involved in. It kind of paints the entire picture for that person. And who knows, you could have other things in common when people see that as well, saying, oh, you're part of this association or this or that. Don't be afraid to put that, so it just adds more, it makes you look better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having it prepared and ready to go also makes you look better.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So I hope this was valuable for all of you. I hope that you're leaving here feeling like there's all sorts of opportunity ahead. And even if there's maybe some areas where you're realizing, okay, I could improve, I could do a little bit better, whatever amazing results you've already gotten, just think about how much better they are going to get as you continue to develop these skills. So I know Teresa mentioned at the beginning, but just to kind of reiterate, the whole rest of the training series for this year is going to be on these 3 skills. So you get to come back for a deep dive on each one of these skills over the course of the year. So make sure as you're chatting with your chapter members, as you're doing face-to-faces, let people know that this is happening so that we can get more people working on building these skills. Teresa, I'll throw it to you for any final thoughts.
Thank you. So the first thing before we let you go, we're going to ask everybody here to please put your contact information in the chat so that you can connect with each other, maybe practice something new that you learned today in your discussions with each other and with the shares. We purposefully did not deep dive, as Rachel was saying, because the entire series is basically going to, one thing is going to build on the other. Each one of these networking skills, and the next, your journey actually continues with our next training, which is going to be on honing your listening skills. Even if you thought you were like a 4 or like a 4.8, there's always ways to improve. Constant improvement is one of our core values here at Master Networks. So save the date, Friday, May 12th at noon. The next training will be presented by Karen Trendell and Rachel Sirota. And then we'll have 2 more trainings. We're going to have a training on systems and then another training on nurturing, so that everybody here is good. Please make sure your info is in the chat for us. And we appreciate you. You'll likely be hearing from one of us, from Rachel or myself, just to get a little bit of feedback, or feel free to email me any thoughts that you have, what you liked, what you didn't like, because this is not about us. This is about you. We really want to have our trainings built. It's built for members, by members in this region. And we want to have workshops that are worth your time, where you feel that your desires have been heard. And you can always reach out to me, Teresa at teresasafali.com. I'm going to put it in the chat. And I'm going to stop my share and pass it off to Tina, who I see has her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, you had said the 12th. It's actually the 17th.
Sorry, 17, my
No
bad.
problem. I just want to make that clear.
Friday, the 17th.
No, no problem. I also wanted to make sure everybody understands. So when you guys take the chat with you, I just want to make sure that you're not spamming each other. Please don't stick it in your newsletter and just expect that, everybody's going to start reading your newsletter. Do that one-on-one, do that one-on-one. If you want to talk to somebody, actually, send them an email and say, hey, saw you at the thing, whatever. Make a connection before you stick them in a list. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Really good point. We always want to use best practices, and that is very true, especially when it comes to where we're adding contacts and what we're doing with those contacts. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording.